Hello everybody and welcome back to another Psych Reacts video. Finally the day has come where we are back making some more psychology reaction content. Let's go! Today I have for you a man who has been sentenced to 170 years in prison at the age of 13. You may know him as Ronald Sanford. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the background of this man. So the background story is apparently that these two boys, Sean Rowe and Ronald Sanford, were friends living in the North Side District of Indianapolis. On August 18th, 1987, the two boys approached the home of two elderly sisters, Anna Harris and Julie Belmer. Anna being 83 and Julie being 87. Now they approached the house looking for some yard work to do. They were looking for some money to go to a fair. The boys said they were looking to earn some money doing yard work. However, it's more likely they had decided to rob the old ladies. Ronald Sanford admits that as soon as the door was opened, they pushed into the home of the sisters and it ended up in a double homicide. Julia was stabbed to death, and soon after returning home, Anna Louise was also stabbed to death. Sean Rowe took $5 and used it to go to the Indiana State Fair. The two women were murdered in the basement of their own home for just $5. In 1988, Sean Rowe was arrested by officers who immediately requested a plea bargain and then implicated Ronald Sanford agreeing to testify against him. Rowe told the officers that he himself had done nothing. He was apparently just a bystander to a robbery and double murder. Most of the charges against Rowe were dropped except one, assisting a robbery. He pleaded guilty to that charge and received a sentence of 5 years, 11 months, and 30 days. He was then released in 1991, only serving 2 years and 2 days. On the other hand, Ronald Sanford was advised to pleading guilty to double murder, robbery with bodily harm, and burglary on the understanding that his age and lack of conclusive evidence would be taken into account. He was 15 years old when he stood before the court and was sentenced to 170 years without parole. All the police had to go off of who got the bigger sentence was solely based on the fact of one of them blaming the other. Ronald Sanford is said to be a quietly spoken, friendly, and highly intelligent 13-year-old boy. In other words, he wasn't very streetwise and allowed the confident older boy to walk all over him. Sean Rowe is said to have a more dominant personality. Just looking at the personalities, you would assume that Sean Rowe is more likely to be the one to suggest the robbery and then lead in the double homicide. However, Sean Rowe instantly went to the police once he was arrested and blamed it all on Ronald Sanford. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into this interview.
The offenders in this unit are locked down for 23 hours a day. And when they're allowed out for their 60-minute break, they're kept apart in individual steel cages. One of the men is 38-year-old Ronald L. Sanford. By any measure, and in any prison community, his is an exceptional story. When did you come here to Indiana State Prison?
Well, I came here in 1989 at the age of 15 years old. I was actually convicted of the crime that I'm here for at the age of 13 years old.
And what was the crime?
Double homicide. So I committed a double homicide at the age of 13 years old. At the age of 15, my case had ran its course through the court, and I was sitting here to this prison in 1989.
Double homicide?
Yes, sir.
At the age of 13?
13, yes, sir.
That's very, very young.
It's tragic, to say the least, and it is very young. Absolutely, it's unheard of, you know.
Alright, so at the age of 13, he was convicted of a double homicide. Now, when you look at this man, he doesn't seem to be very aggressive. He doesn't seem to be rude. He doesn't look to be potentially dangerous. Throughout the whole interview, he answers all the questions. He respectfully talks through everything that the interviewer is asking of him. He never refuses to answer any questions, and he always responds to them and gives his answer. He looks like a friendly, genuine guy, right? Obviously, we'll never know who is the one to have led the stabbings of the two older ladies. The only people who know that is Sean Rowe and Ronald Sanford. If he didn't take part in any way, shape, or form, I would be surprised if he just sat there and let the sentence fall on him. Now, it could be the loyalty thing. However, I feel like once Sean Rowe put all of the burdens on Ronald, that would be the break of that loyalty. So it seems as though he did in some way take part. Now we'll continue on with this interview and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes.
Wow. It's unspeakable, to say the least. Even reflective on it almost 25 years later. In August, it'll be 25 years since that crime took place. It's still very vivid. It's still very poignant. It still resonates, and it still has the same amount of tragic elements involved in it now as it did then. And it will always be with me for the rest of my life. I always say it's like an albatross around my neck. No matter where I go or what I do for the rest of my life, it'll always be with me.
What were the circumstances which led up to the incident which led you in prison at the age of 15?
Me and a friend had basically planned to get money to go to a fair. And to do so, we were going to cut grass. And we went to a home basically, and they said they didn't want their grass cut, and rather than continue on the vein and go to the next home, we decided to push into the home essentially.
Alright, so what I find interesting in this sentence is he mentions that the ladies didn't want their grass cut, and he said, and rather than moving on to the next home, we decided to push ourselves in. Now, I find that interesting because he knows what the logical move would have been. So it kind of points towards the older boy being the one to want to push in and eventually lead to a double homicide of these two ladies. Now, he has had almost 25 years to reflect on his actions and what happened that day. So obviously, it's not like he shouldn't know what the logical explanation would have been. It's possible that during that moment where they really wanted this money for the fair, that all logic just went out the window and they said, all right, let's go. Now, it's more likely that this was planned, at least of a robbery. There's not enough evidence to show that the double homicide was planned. I would have to look at like the case evidence and all of that, like where did the knife come from, because they said that they stabbed them to death. So I'm assuming the knife was probably a kitchen knife, which would not be planned of the homicide, because if it was planned, they most likely would have brought their own knives. So the robbery was probably planned and the homicide was probably not. What led to the homicide, I do not know. If you have any like clips or anything saying how it led to that, do link it down in the comments. I'll check it out. But my guess is now it is possible that the robbery did not go as planned and force needed to be used in order to obtain the money. So it's possible that's where it led to the double homicide rather than just the robbery and getting out. In all the articles that I've read, they mentioned how the one older lady was killed first, and when the other lady came home, she was also killed. So I'm assuming that during the whole ruckus of the robbery and the murder, the sister came home and saw these boys either in amidst the murder or the aftermath of the murder. So a lot of different situations, a lot of different variables lead into how this robbery turns into a double homicide. And the only people that I'm aware of that know this and how everything happened is Ronald Sanford and Sean Rowe. Now, I saw a different interview of Ronald Sanford, and I'll have to watch it and see if it goes into detail of the crime. And if it does, let me know if you would like to see that on this channel. But let's go ahead and continue on with this interview here.
It ended in a double homicide. It's that simple. And for our complicity in that crime, I was sentenced to 170 years, 170.
You got a sentence of 170 years.
Yes, sir.
However you cut that, you are not going to get out of here.
I'm eligible for parole when I turn 100 years old.
Have you ever thought about all the things that you have missed that other 15-year-olds go through as part of their normal lives?
Absolutely. I've never been to the prom. I've never driven a car. I've never had a driver's license. I've never filed tax returns. I've never been on an airplane. I've never traveled abroad. Should I continue? My life has been lived in this prison, and it seems as though I've been in this prison so long that I've never been free. 25 years in prison, you know, it's a long time.
You know, he kind of seems to choke up in this moment, and I don't blame him, obviously. I mean, even if you are guilty, it would still probably affect you for being stuck in prison since you were 15 years old. Because he kind of seems to choke up on this. Let's go ahead and watch that again.
My life has been lived in this prison, and it seems as though I've been in this prison so long that I've never been free. 25 years in prison, you know, it's a long time.
Especially when you come in at the age of 15.
Yeah, really.
So it almost seems like he stops himself from becoming emotional. You can hear when he says, you know, 25 years living in a prison is a long time. You can hear the raised octaves in his voice. His voice is higher and it's a little bit restrained. You can hear the choking up. When the interviewer responds to that, Ronald looks away and says, yeah. So he's like trying to recollect his feelings, recollect his emotions to not show them. So we'll go ahead and watch that one more time and we'll let it play.
25 years in prison, you know, it's a long time.
Especially when you come in at the age of 15.
Yeah, really.
Ariel, thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you for taking the time.
I appreciate you.
Alright, so that is the story of Ronald L. Sanford. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you think it was a one-sided decision either way, or if you think both boys each played a role in this double homicide. I would check out the other interview, and I'll keep you guys updated on if that goes into more detail of the crime. But if you did enjoy this video and you want to see more, make sure you drop a like down below. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you do that. It is completely free. Turn on the bell so you get notifications of when I upload next. I usually tend to upload every Sunday, so make sure you are subscribed so you get those notifications. We're 100 subscribers away from 4,000 subs, so thank you guys so much for all your support. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know your thoughts once again down in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.